It's been an incredible decade of football. There have been some unbelievable players, some unbelievable teams, and a ridiculous amount of goals. But who's going to make our team of the decade? Here, I'm going to look through the best 11 from the last 10 years. Now, I know you're all going to disagree with me on so many points, so let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section below and who you would have had and why. Don't forget that bit rather than just shouting abuse, but whatever. Let's move into the goalkeeper because Manuel Neuer is definitely the number one choice. Not only has he literally changed the way that goalkeepers are viewed around Europe, he's won the World Cup, he's won ridiculous amounts of trophies with Bayern Munich, and well, he's just an unbelievable keeper. There were, of course, so many others you could have chosen based on quality, based on their potential, based on the trophies that they've won. But consistency-wise, even though the last few years he's gone off the ball a little bit, Manuel Neuer definitely has to be keeping guard. Next up, and to the defence, where we have a four-man back line on the right-hand side, starting with Dani Alves. This probably comes as no surprise to you. He's won league titles in Spain, Italy, France. He's won an international title where he literally, at the age of 38 years old this summer, was the best player at the Copa America as Brazil won it on home soil. What he's done up and down the wing for PSG, Barcelona, Juventus and others has been nothing short of spectacular, and he's got the medals to show it. His career now has an unbelievable 40 winners' medals, and well, you're not really going to find anyone better this century, to be honest. Into the centre-back positions though, and the first one is rather obvious. Basically, every time there's a Real Madrid player in this team, it's because they won the Champions League 4 times. They've also got a Copa del Rey and 2 La Liga titles, and they've been so dominant in so many years that it's kind of hard to not put quite a few of them in there. The first one, Sergio Ramos. Whether you love him, whether you hate him, you can't deny he's an unbelievable centre-back. One of the best to ever play the game and a true legend of Real Madrid and of football. He's been incredibly consistent over the last 10 years, also consistent with his yellow and red cards, but despite that, he's still got to go in this team. So with him on one side of the central defensive pairing, the other side is ridiculously difficult. Yes, I could have put Rafael Varane in there, although I think only halfway through the decade he really started to come into his own. There's also John Terry, who spent the first half of the decade winning absolutely everything with Chelsea, maybe just a little bit more than that. But for me, I'm going to go for someone who's literally transformed the club, Manchester City. Now you know who I'm talking about, it's Vincent Kompany. This is because in 2010, Manchester City had no Premier League titles. They had never played in the Champions League, and they were not the team full of big name superstars they are today. 9 years later, and you've got to attribute the fact that they've now got 4 Premier League titles and they're playing consistently in the Champions League and challenging for all trophies, to Vincent Kompany. Yes, he left the club in the summer, but literally the 9 years before that, he was absolutely incredible, and there's no way I couldn't put him in this team. Moving into the left-back spot though, and much like Dani Alves on the right-hand side, we've got another Brazilian on the left-hand side. It's Marcelo, literally for the same reasons about Sergio Ramos. Consistency, Real Madrid, 4 Champions League titles, a whole load of trophies, flying up and down that left wing. I actually think that him and Dani Alves have played in the era where there's not been too many competitors for those positions. Marcelo's literally in the team of the year all the time because Jordi Alba's had a good few years, don't get me wrong. There have been some other pretty decent left backs, including David Alaba, and for 1 or 2 years, Danny Rose was even up there as well. But apart from that, I can't really see too many who would definitely challenge Marcelo for that left-back spot, so he stays in. Moving into the midfield now, and this is where it gets a little bit more trickier. The forward line, I'm going to warn you, isn't tricky at all. The midfield, though, there's just so many options. Do you go with defensive players like N'Golo Kante, who's really only been doing his thing for about 4 or 5 years, not the whole decade? Well, first off, I'm going to go with Andres Iniesta. Yes, he did leave for Japan 2 years ago, but for the 8 years before that, he was literally dominating the Barcelona midfield. I have never seen a central midfielder like him, and I don't think I'm going to see one again. The way he moves, the way his footwork, the way he has so much incredible vision, and was a pretty nippy little player too. It was just unbelievable to watch. So good for Barcelona, and over recent seasons after he's left, they haven't quite been the same in midfield. Busquets is still doing his thing. Arthur and De Jong look like brilliant players for the future, but they're definitely not at Iniesta's level yet, and I'm not quite sure whether they'll ever get there. He's also one of the best players to never win a Ballon d'Or, in my humble opinion. And alongside Andres Iniesta, there is another World Cup winner and another Champions League player who's won it 4 times. Of course, that means it's a Real Madrid player. Of course, that means it's a German Real Madrid player. And of course, it's Toni Kroos. Probably largely underrated due to the fact he doesn't really have too much of a persona off the field. In the Galactico era of all the bright lights and Ronaldos and Benzema's and Bales hogging the headlines, Toni Kroos goes about his work with unbelievable, typically German efficiency. One of the best passers over the decade, one of the best players with incredible technique, and he's just been so consistent. Even through Germany's dire World Cup performance in 2018, Kroos was still a shining light. As for Real Madrid, yeah, he's just basically been one of the best midfielders this decade, so I can't really not put him in because that is what we're doing in today's video. And alongside him, again, it gets so ridiculously difficult. I was going to put in David Silva for what he did at Manchester City. Been incredible, but I just went with Luka Modric. Literally for the same reason as Toni Kroos, the consistency he's shown at Real Madrid has been incredible. This is actually even more impressive considering the fact that he had a great few years at Spurs at the turn of the decade, had that one shocking season at Real where he was voted worst La Liga signing of the season, but then went on to prove he was one of the best in the world, so much so that he is the only player this decade, apart from Ronaldo or Messi, to win the Ballon d'Or. For that alone, he pretty much has to go into the team. He also helped Croatia reach the World Cup final, which they definitely weren't expected to do. So massive props to Luka Modric, and he rounds off this three-man midfield. Moving into the forwards though, and it's going to get slightly more obvious here, apart from the centre forward role, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Left-hand side, Cristiano Ronaldo. You know he's going to be there because of the utter ridiculous brilliance that he has shown at Real Madrid, becoming their greatest goal scorer of all time. He absolutely smashed the record for the most amount of goals that Real set before that. He took them also to so many titles, was literally the man to go to whenever they needed to get out of a sticky situation. There was hat-tricks galore, ridiculous strikes, free kicks, obviously quite a few penalties in there as well. Ronaldo was just the guy for the team of the decade with those Champions League trophies. He also smashed records, including becoming the highest Champions League goal scorer of all time. There's literally nothing you can say against Ronaldo which doesn't put him in this team of the decade. He's also got an international trophy with Portugal. That is more than I can say for Lionel Messi, who doesn't have an international trophy. But then again, he's Lionel Messi, and what he's done at Barcelona is nothing short of incredible. Probably the best player in the world, although I'm sure the Ronaldo on this team, the dressing room, would throw up quite a good few debates over who is better. Anyway, I don't need to talk too much about Lionel Messi. You know exactly what he's done, exactly what he's brought to Barcelona, and just how much he's contributed to their utter dominance in the domestic leagues in this decade. All the Copa del Rey, the La Liga titles, the Spanish Super Cups, all that lark. That's been Lionel Messi. Well, not all of him, but he's had a pretty big helping hand in it. I can look back at so many high points for him, but certainly that goal in the Copa del Rey final against Athletic Bilbao was an unbelievable moment for the Argentinian wizard. So with him on the right-hand side, Ronaldo on the left, they're going to feed the ball in or score themselves. We need a goal scorer right up the top. This was so difficult. So first off, there was Sergio Aguero, who definitely made an amazing shout. In front of him, I thought Zlatan Ibrahimovic could have been in there. Then there was Karim Benzema, incredible at Real Madrid. Just above him was Luis Suarez. But finally, I've gone for Robert Lewandowski. Now, I know most of you are going to say, oh, the Bundesliga wasn't too difficult because, well, Lewandowski's literally been winning it for the whole decade. He got those two with Dortmund before moving to Bayern Munich and then winning every single one since then. The one thing he hasn't won is the Champions League, I'll give you that. They were defeated by Bayern Munich when he was at Dortmund in the final back in 2013. Even so, he's the third highest goal scorer this decade behind Ronaldo and Messi. So there's literally no other way I couldn't have put him in the forward line in this team. You've got the three greatest goal scorers of the last 10 years playing up front together. This team is guaranteed to get some goals. So with Robert Lewandowski up top alongside Messi and Ronaldo, it's a pretty dangerous front three. But let me know your thoughts on the whole team. Who would you have had in which position? Who would you have not had in the team and why? Let me know your thoughts. We'll have one big debate about it in the comments section below. Whilst you're there, you can smash the like button and also click here or here to check out all of the other videos we've got going on Onefootball. But until next time, I will see you guys later. I'll see you guys next decade.